Welcome to the Deconstructionist Deep Dive, the podcast that doesn't just accept the story.
We break it.
We examine the pieces.
And expose the machinery inside.
Let's dive in.
Let's dive in.
What if the person lying next to you, smiling at you, listening so perfectly to you, isn't just occasionally manipulative, but is running a deliberate, time-tested psychological trap designed to make you hand over your sovereignty without ever realizing the blueprint was yours?
Okay, let's jump right into that. Because today, the source material we're looking at, it's not your standard self-help guide.
No.
It isn't a how to deal with difficult people article from some magazine. We are deconstructing a document that reads less like a psychology text and frankly more like a schematic for a weapon.
A weapon, yeah. The source itself calls it a knowledge capsule.
Exactly, a knowledge capsule regarding what it terms. And I think this language is so important. Archontic manipulation.
Right, and that word archontic, it immediately sounds like something out of science fiction.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know, a Gnostic gospel.
And it is. But the way it's applied here is what's so chilling. The core premise, what the source calls the primary directive, is that what we call modern interpersonal abuse. So, narcissism, coercive control, sociopathy.
All the labels we're familiar with.
Right. The source argues that those are just surface-level descriptions for a much older, much more programmatic system. It calls them archontic soul traps.
Soul traps. I mean, that's heavy terminology.
It is, but before anyone tunes out thinking this is all going to be metaphysics, let's ground this. The source is referencing Gnostic demiurgic illusions.
Okay, so we have to unpack that. For anyone who didn't spend their weekends reading 2nd century mystical texts.
Which is most people.
Yeah.
So let's strip the paint off it. The Gnostics were, these early Christian mystics who had a very different view of the world. They believed our material reality wasn't created by the ultimate benevolent God. It was created by a lesser flawed entity, a sort of cosmic craftsman who was jealous and controlling. They called him the demiurge.
The demiurge had enforcers, jailers.
He had jailers, the archons. The word literally means rulers or authorities. And in the Gnostic worldview, their entire job was to keep human souls, which they saw as these divine sparks of the true God trapped in the material world.
To keep us distracted.
Distracted, confused, suffering. Anything to make us forget our true origin, our own divinity. Now, what this source does, which is so radical, is it takes that entire metaphysical framework and applies it directly to human behavior.
So it's saying the person gaslighting you at the dinner table
is running the Archon software. Their behavior isn't random. It's not just a personality flaw. It's a program, a trap.
And if you can get past the, the cosmic language, the psychological mapping is.
Yeah.
It's terrifyingly precise. The source claims the goal isn't just control.
No, that's the first mistake everyone makes, even therapists. They think the abuser wants to win or wants to be in charge. The source says that's thinking way too small.
So what's the real goal?
Energy harvesting.
Okay, so this is the loose theory, the idea that intense negative emotion is literally a food source for certain entities.
Exactly. It's a parasitic dynamic. The best analogy is a battery. Your emotional energy, your life force, you're the battery. The abuser's job is to engineer situations that drain that battery.
So they need you in a state of fear.
Fear, confusion, shame, desperate longing. Any low-frequency, high-output emotional state, that exhaust, that emotional static you give off when you're in that state, that's the food. That's the harvest.
Let's make that really concrete, because frequency can sound a bit abstract.
Sure.
Think about that feeling you get after a 3-hour circular argument that goes absolutely nowhere.
I think we all know that one.
You're trying to explain how you feel, and every word gets twisted. You feel like you're going crazy, and at the end of it, you're just drained. You're physically exhausted, your head hurts, you feel sick to your stomach, and you look at them.
And they look fine.
They look better than fine. They look energized. They might even be humming, going to make a sandwich.
That's the harvest, right there. The transfer of energy has occurred. The source calls this whole process frequency sabotage. The entire mechanism is designed to deliberately lower your vibration, your core emotional and physiological state to create and enforce dependency.
Because a person who feels good is harder to control.
Impossible to control. A person who is joyful, confident, centered, clear-headed, they have boundaries like a fortress, they're sovereign. But someone who is exhausted, riddled with guilt, and constantly confused.
They're malleable.
Completely.
Yeah.
And this is where it gets even darker. The source talks about something called reincarnation lures.
That sounds like part of the Gnostic framework again.
It is, but it's applied to the relationship cycle. A reincarnation lure is a trap designed to make you defer your sovereignty, your escape, your freedom to a future that never comes.
Okay, this is the ultimate meta-deception.
Oh.
I think this is one of the most important concepts in the whole text. It explains why incredibly intelligent, capable people stay in horrific situations for years, sometimes decades.
Because the system is built on the promise that resolution's always coming, but it's always later.
I promise I'll change.
Things will get better once this project at work is done.
We just need to buy a house, then everything will be stable.
Once we get married, I'll finally feel secure and I won't be so jealous. It's a constant deferral of the present moment. It keeps you from acting now.
You don't say no today because you're holding out for their yes tomorrow.
And you are perpetually waiting for a tomorrow that is, by design, never going to arrive. It's a carrot on an infinite stick. The source argues this is the exact same mechanism that Gnostics believed kept souls trapped in the physical reincarnation cycle. Oh, I'll figure it out in the next life.
And in the relationship, it's, I'll be happy next month.
Right. And that period of waiting, of hoping, that's not just a delay. That is the trap. That is the period during which the energy harvest loop stays open. It's a system of pure bafflement.
Bafflement. That's such a perfect word for it. It's not just simple confusion. It's an engineered state of being stupefied.
Because they create these false dichotomies. They'll reframe their suffocating control as deep, protective care. They'll reframe a terrifying rage as them being vulnerable and passionate.
They keep you so cognitively scrambled that you can't even see the exit, even when the door is wide open and unlocked.
So this document, this knowledge capsule, it gives us a blueprint. It breaks down the entire process into 14 distinct stages or nodes.
They're like tactical vectors in the attack.
Exactly. And if we look at the first section, the setup, it's all about disarmament and setting the hook. It's disturbingly precise. It's like reading a military field manual for cracking a safe, but the safe is a human heart.
Okay, so let's get into it. The first cluster of nodes is the setup. Nodes 1, 3, 4, and 6. It all begins with node 1, superficial charm.
The disarmament weapon.
Now, everyone's met a charming person, but this is different. This isn't just someone who is witty or charismatic.
No. The source is very clear. This is weaponized charm. Its function is not connection. Its function is inducing euphoria to lower defenses. It's a chemical hack on your brain.
It's that feeling. Sometimes it's called a glimmer. When you first meet someone and you get this instant electric jolt of recognition. Oh, finally, someone who gets me.
And that feeling, that jolt, the source warns us. That's not destiny. That's not your soulmate. That's the sound of a key sliding into a lock. That's a security breach.
The source connects this to some really interesting cross-cultural parallels. It talks about Buddhist Mara illusions and Mayan trickster gods. It calls the experience false salvation.
And that's exactly what it feels like. You feel saved. Before you met them, maybe you're a little lonely, a little bored, a little insecure. And then this person arrives, and it's like the world goes from black and white to technicolor.
But why is it so effective? Why do we fall for it?
Because it targets a deficit. It's brutally simple. If you're starving and someone offers you a feast, you don't inspect every dish for poison, you just eat. These personalities, these archonic types, they are experts at scanning for emotional hunger.
So they aren't just being nice.
They're not being nice. They're performing a very specific script of salvation tailored to what you're hungry for. I am the answer to your loneliness. I am the cure for your boredom. I am the one who finally sees how special you are.
The source calls it emotional farming.
Yes. They're not planting a garden with you. They're preparing the soil of you for a later harvest. They have to get your dopamine and oxytocin levels soaring.
So they have further to drop you later.
Precisely. You can't harvest profound despair from someone who is already numb. You have to lift them up to the highest heaven so that when you drop them, the fall into hell shatters them completely. The height of the love bombing determines the depth of the later pain.
Which leads right into the next step, doesn't it? The targeted. Node 3, victim selection.
Target scan. And this is where a lot of common wisdom gets turned on its head.
This part was a really hard pill for me to swallow when I first read it. We have this idea that predators go after the weak, the person with low self-esteem, the broken bird.
That's the Hollywood version. It's wrong. The source is explicit. Targets are chosen for their strengths, specifically for empathy, for compliance, for malleability, but above all else, for high levels of empathy.
Because a high empathy person has more emotional energy to harvest.
They have more to give. If I'm an energy vampire, I don't go to the anemic patient in the hospital. I go to the Olympic athlete. I want the person with a vibrant inner life, deep emotional reserves, a huge capacity for forgiveness, and a powerful desire to see the good in others.
So your best qualities become your biggest liabilities.
In this system, they are not virtues. They're entry points for exploitation. The predator sees your empathy and a switch flips in their head. They don't think, what a good person. They think, good. This one will try to understand me instead of holding me accountable.
This one will forgive me.
This one will make excuses for my bad behavior because they'll feel sorry for my supposed trauma. Your kindness becomes their shield.
The source says this node directs passive revelation. What does that mean?
It means your own empathy makes you open up without them even having to try very hard. You feel this amazing connection, so you start revealing your vulnerabilities. You show them your soft spots because you assume naturally that you're building a real connection. You're projecting your own goodness and integrity onto them.
And all that information
Feeds their targeting precision. You are literally handing them the coordinates for a future missile strike. You're saying, here's my childhood trauma, here's my biggest insecurity, here's what I'm most afraid of losing, and they're taking notes.
Yeah, which brings us to node 4. This is where they really lock you in. Love bombing.
The reincarnation lore.
I think this is probably one of the most misused terms in all of pop psychology now. People throw it around to mean, someone sending too many texts at the beginning of a relationship.
It's so much more calculated and insidious than that. The source defines it as a strategic overload of affection and attention, yes, but for the specific purpose of manufacturing dependency. The real mechanism, the deep trap, is the future promise tethering.
Okay, future promise tethering. Let's break that down.
This brings us back to that reincarnation idea. They are creating a powerful bond based on a promise of a shared future that will never, ever materialize.
This is we're going to build a house together in the country. We're going to quit our jobs and travel the world. I can't wait to have a family with you.
And it happens at an insane speed. We're talking week 2, week 3. It's not organic. It's an assault. The source compares it to things like Christian heaven or Aztec obedience lores.
What's the connection there?
The principle is the same. Suffer now. Obey now. Give me your energy, your resources, your devotion now, and in exchange, I promise you a perfect paradise later. It's a spiritual Ponzi scheme. You're investing your entire present reality into a future that the abuser has absolutely no intention of ever delivering.
And you buy into it because of node 1. Because you felt that initial euphoria. You think you've already had a taste of that heaven, so you believe the promise is real.
You think, I know he can be that amazing person again. I met him. I was with him. But you weren't. You met the lure. You met the carefully constructed, shiny plastic bait on the end of a very sharp hook.
Is there a way to test for this? To know if it's real or if it's a trap?
Yes, and the source gives a very clear fracture point. It says the entire illusion of love bombing evaporates the second you meet a future promise with an immediate boundary.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. Let's say they say, we're soulmates, we're going to be together forever, so you don't need to go out with your friends tonight, just stay here with me. The love bombing promise is forever.
Right.
The test is to enforce a boundary in the present. You say, I'm so excited about our forever, and I'm also going to see my friends tonight. I'll see you when I get back. And then you watch what happens.
And if it was a lure?
The mask will slip. The charm will vanish. You'll see irritation or anger or guilt tripping. Because the love was transactional, it was conditioned on your immediate compliance. Their love can only exist in the future. It can't survive a boundary in the now.
They can't deliver in the present. They can only sell you the future.
Exactly. And to sell that future effectively, they need ammunition. And that's where we get node 6, oversharing exploitation.
The blueprint.
This is the direct result of the trust built during the love bombing phase. The victim feels so safe, so seen, that they share everything. Their deepest secrets, past traumas, greatest fears, their hopes and dreams.
So let's run a scenario. Let's call our victim Alex. Alex is in the middle of this intense love bombing phase with, let's call them the architect.
Right.
They're up until 4 in the morning talking. It feels like the most profound connection Alex has ever had. And Alex says, my biggest insecurity is that my father always said I wasn't very smart. It's made me feel like an imposter my whole life.
And in that moment, the architect is so supportive, so understanding. That's ridiculous. You're the smartest person I've ever... Alex feels healed, seen, safe.
Alex thinks they're bonding. What is the architect thinking?
The architect is filing it away. They're thinking, okay, File labeled Alex's insecurities. Item 1. Intelligence. When I need to inflict maximum pain later, I won't criticize their looks or their personality. I'll call them stupid. I'll call them an idiot. I will use their father's voice.
Oh, that's a psychological heist.
It is. The victim literally hands over the relational blueprint that will be used to systematically dismantle them later. And the source points out the sheer cruelty of it. The very act of being vulnerable, which should be the basis of true intimacy, becomes the raw material for your own prison.
The abuser doesn't have to guess where your weak points are.
You gave him a map with all the targets circled in red.
So the setup is complete. You've been disarmed, you've been targeted, you're hooked on a fantasy future, and you've given them the instruction manual to your psyche. Now the script flips.
Now comes the switch. This is where the bafflement really begins. We're looking at Section 3, Nodes 7, 5, and 11. This is the stage where the victim starts to think, wait, am I going crazy?
Let's start with the big one, Node 7, the Jekyll-Hyde switch.
The guilt engine.
This is that abrupt, terrifying oscillation between the charming savior from Node 1 and a monster. A cold, cruel, raging stranger.
And it happens with no warning. 1 minute they're telling you you're their everything, the next they're screaming at you because you loaded the dishwasher wrong. The whiplash is intentional.
The source calls it a dualistic pattern, and it says it forces the victim to try and find the undivided self in the abuser. What does that mean?
It means your brain can't hold two realities at once, that this person is both an angel and a demon. So you have to pick one as the real them, and you always pick the angel.
Right. You think the nice guy, the one who love-bombed me, that's the real him, this monster. This must be a mistake. It's just a bad mood. It's because he's stressed. Maybe it's something I did.
And that thought right there, maybe it's something I did, that's the trap activating. That is the guilt engine firing up. It instantly flips you, the victim, into a guilt-soothing role.
You become the mechanic.
You become the mechanic for their emotions. Your entire focus shifts from your own well-being to, how do I fix this? How do I get the nice guy back? You start walking on eggshells. You start editing your own behavior.
Okay, I won't mention that bill that's overdue because money stresses him out, and that's when he gets mean.
I'll make sure the house is perfect when he gets home so he has no reason to be upset. You are now working full-time, unpaid, to manage their dysfunction. You're expending all your energy trying to stabilize their chaos.
It's like a slot machine. The charm is the jackpot, and the rage is the loss. And the intermittent reinforcement, the fact that you get the jackpot sometimes, is what creates the addiction.
It's the strongest form of behavioral conditioning there is. You just keep pulling the lever, bleeding emotional currency, hoping for that jackpot to come back.
And all the while, your body is screaming at you. Your gut knows something is deeply wrong. Which brings us to Node 5.
Gut instinct suppression. The override. This is one of the most tragic parts of the whole process.
We have millions of years of evolution baked into our biology to detect threats. That feeling in the pit of your stomach, the hair standing up on the back of your neck, that's not anxiety, that's data. That's your primal radar pinging a predator.
But in this dynamic, that data gets systematically discredited. The source says you begin rationalizing primal alerts as overreaction, and the abuser helps you do it.
Oh, they actively orchestrate it. You're being too sensitive. Why are you so suspicious all the time? Don't you trust me?
After everything I do for you, this is how you see me. You clearly have trust issues from your past. They frame your perfectly functioning survival instinct as a moral failing on your part.
So the victim comes to a terrible conclusion. Ignoring my intuition is the price I have to pay for this relationship. If I want to keep the love, I have to silence the alarm bells.
And think about what that means energetically in the framework of the source. It overrides primal alert. You are willingly disabling your own firewall because the virus asked you to. You are welcoming the intruder and silencing your own security system.
And then, to really cement the cage, they reframe one of the most toxic dynamics as something beautiful. Note 11, jealousy as love reframe.
The possessive trap. Our culture is so deeply infected with this one. You see it in movies, in books, in songs.
The idea that he's so jealous because he just loves me so much, or he just can't stand the thought of losing me.
The source calls this reincarnation bait because it frames the prison of their control as some kind of epic, evolving love story. It connects to these grand romantic archetypes, romantic literary obsession, Vedic karmic bonds.
The idea that this intensity, this pain, it must mean we're soulmates. Our connection is just so powerful, it's painful.
When in reality, the source says it's a demiurgic hierarchy disguised as connection. It's about ownership, not partnership. It is not, I love you so much. It is, I own you so much. But by wrapping it in the language of passion and destiny, they get you to accept the cage as a protective embrace.
You start defending your own imprisonment. Oh, he's not controlling, he's just really protective.
No. He's a warden. And you've been convinced the prison yard is a secret garden he built just for you.
It's just. The level of bafflement is total. If you could see any of these nodes clearly, you'd be gone. But they're all woven together into this narrative that keeps you stuck, trying to solve an unsolvable puzzle.
You can't solve it because the puzzle is a lie. You're trying to use the rules of chess to play a game where the other player can knock over the board whenever they're losing. And that brings us to the next stage, the walls of the prison. Section 4. Enforcement and isolation. Nodes 2, 8, 10, and 14.
We mentioned Node 2 earlier, the coercive control axiom.
The law of domination. This is the bedrock of the prison. It's where the abuser positions their control not as a choice they're making, but as an inescapable fundamental law of the relationship.
This is just how things are. I'm the man of the house. I make the money, so I make the decisions. I'm the logical one, you're the emotional one, so my view of reality is the correct one.
It creates a reality tunnel where their authority is absolute and your resistance is framed as irrational or even insane. The source compares it to Hindu Maya, the illusion of reality, or Egyptian netherworld traps. You're in a dimension where they are God and their word is law.
Like trying to argue with gravity.
That's a perfect way to put it. They present their control as a natural force. But here's the weakness, the fracture point. The source says their power is derived solely from perceived inevitability.
What does that mean, exactly?
It means their power only exists as long as you believe you have no choice. It's an illusion that shatters under the light of direct observation. The moment you have the thought, wait a minute, I can just say no. I can just walk out that door. Your rules don't actually apply to me. The entire axiom crumbles. They're not a god, they're just a person in a room.
But if you dare to have that thought, if you dare to test that law and set a boundary, then you run headfirst into Node 8.
Rejection vengeance, the scorched earth policy.
This is pure retaliation against any enforcement of a boundary, no matter how small.
And the parallels the source draws are intense. Viking berserker rage, the Sumerian underworld. It's designed to be terrifyingly and deliberately disproportionate. That's the key.
So if Alex says very calmly, please don't call me stupid, the architect doesn't just say sorry.
No. The architect might respond by punching a wall, smashing a plate, screaming for 3 hours, and then threatening to kill themselves. The reaction is so far out of proportion to the initial boundary that it induces terror.
It's shock and awe tactics.
Exactly. The function is to enforce submission via fear escalation. You learned very quickly that the price of asking for basic respect is an explosion of terrifying chaos. So you stop asking. You think, okay, I'll just let him call me stupid. It's better than that.
And while you're reeling from that fear, they're quietly building the rest of the cage. Node 10, coercive control elements.
The invisible cage. This is the practical stuff. The isolation from friends and family, the surveillance of your phone and email, the financial sabotage, taking control of the money.
But, and this is the signature archonic twist, it's all disguised as protective care.
Every single time. I don't like your best friend because she's a bad influence on you. Let me see your phone. I just worry about other guys harassing you. I'll handle all the finances so you don't have to stress your pretty little head about it.
It's Orwellian. War is peace. Slavery is freedom. Control is care.
And the energetic flow, the source says, is bafflement. It hides the one-sided nature of the control. If the government insisted on reading your texts and controlling your bank account, you'd call it a totalitarian state. But when they do it, it's called love. And because you're so starved for any sign of affection at this point, you might even misinterpret the surveillance as a form of attention.
And that leads to the final lock on the prison door, Node 14. This one is so subtle.
It's insidious, the Boundary Vigilance Directive.
This node frames empowerment, your attempt to get free, as a perpetual defensive posture.
Meaning you think that to be free, you have to be constantly fighting them, constantly on guard, constantly vigilant against their next move.
Right. But the paradox, the trap within the trap, is that if you're constantly vigilant against them, you're still completely focused on them. Your life is still revolving around them.
The energetic impact is that it reinforces reactive vigilance. You haven't reclaimed your life. You've just changed your job title from victim to defender. You're still in orbit around them, just a hostile orbit instead of a compliant one.
You're a satellite armed with cannons, but you're still a satellite.
Perfectly put. True liberation, true sovereignty isn't about winning the fight with the abuser. It's about rendering them completely irrelevant. It's not about winning the war. It's about getting off the battlefield entirely.
But that's so hard to do when it feels like the whole world is siding with them. Which brings us to a really painful section of the source. Section 5. The system. Institutional complicity.
Yeah, this is where the anger really kicks in for a lot of people who've been through this. If you've ever tried to explain psychological abuse to a police officer or a judge or even a therapist who doesn't get it, you know this pain. We're talking nodes 9, 12, and 13.
Let's start with node 9. Institutional charm blindness.
The systemic failure. The source makes a brutal argument here. It says that our professional systems, family courts, police, parole boards, therapists, are fundamentally, structurally unequipped to deal with this personality type.
Why?
Because they are deceived by the performative persona. The abuser, the architect, walks into the courtroom or the therapy session. They are calm, they are well-dressed, they are articulate, they speak softly and reasonably. They are masters of node 1, superficial charm.
Meanwhile, the victim, Alex, walks in a wreck. They're traumatized, they're emotional, they might be crying, they haven't slept properly in months because of node 8, the rejection vengeance. They sound disjointed because their reality has been scrambled for years.
So who does the system believe? It looks at the calm, charming architect and thinks, he seems like a reasonable guy. It looks at the distraught, emotional victim and thinks, wow, she seems really unstable. It's what the source calls corrupted authority. These institutions, which we believe are infallible, end up validating the abuser's mask, not the victim's reality.
And that just reinforces the gaslighting. It makes the victim feel completely crazy. If the judge can't see it, if the therapist can't see it, maybe it's not real. Maybe it is all me.
Which feeds directly into node 13, linguistic and cultural masking.
The blame shift. This is where society at large hates the abuser.
Yes. Our societal norms, our language, so often shifts the blame to the victim. The source cites the biblical Eve blame as a kind of root archetype, the idea that the woman is the temptress, the cause of the man's downfall.
But it's in our everyday language too. Why did you stay? What did you do to provoke him? It takes two to tango.
Every single one of those phrases is a spell. It's a linguistic virus that magically transfers the burden of the abuse onto the person being abused. The source says this is a societal-level energy drain. It harvests shame via blame. The community effectively helps the archon do its work.
Is there a way to break that spell? A fracture point?
Yes. Precise abuser naming. You have to stop using their language and society's language. It's not a toxic relationship. It's a hostage situation. It's not a bad breakup. It's an escape from a predator. It's not a lot of drama. It's coercive control. Using precise, accurate language semantic dissection is a powerful weapon. You have to call the demon by its true name to rob it of its power.
And the final piece of this systemic trap is node 12, betrayal trauma defense.
This is the sunk cost fallacy applied to the soul. It's the internal mechanism that keeps victims trapped. They rationalize the abuse because they've already invested so much.
I can't leave now. I've put 15 years of my life into this marriage. I gave up my career for him. All my friends are his friends now. I have nowhere to go.
It sustains denial, the source says, and it just recycles the unprocessed trauma. It's the gambler at the slot machine at 4 a.m., broke, having lost the house, but still putting in their last quarter because my luck has to turn around soon. It's just heartbreaking.
It is. But, and this is the pivot in the whole document, it's not hopeless. The source doesn't just diagnose the poison. It provides the antidotes.
And it calls them heretical counter-paradigms. And I love that word, heretical, because it acknowledges that standard issue talk therapy often fails spectacularly in these situations. Tell me about your childhood is not going to cut it against an archon. You need stronger medicine.
It calls them the immune system for the mind. Let's go through some of them. The first one it suggests is Advaita.
Advaita Vedanta. Yeah, this is diving into the deep end of the philosophical pool. It's a non-dual philosophy.
Okay, so what on earth does ancient Hindu philosophy have to do with getting away from a toxic partner?
Think about what the abuser targets. They target the ego, your sense of self. They flatter it, then they attack it. They target your need to be seen as good, as special, as right. Advaita says that entire egoic persona, the you that you think you are, is an illusion to begin with. The separate self is a construct. If there is no self to be charmed, the flattery has nowhere to land.
If there's no me to be insulted, your words are just vibrations in the air.
Exactly. If the architect says, "You are the most brilliant person I've ever met," the Advaita practitioner thinks a thought is occurring. If the architect screams, "You are a worthless idiot," they think another thought is occurring. It has nothing to do with the true self, which is just the witness to all this drama. It makes you fundamentally unhookable.
Okay, that's a very high-level defense. What about something more grounded? It lists anarcho-primitivism.
Right. This one questions the very foundation of the abuser's power, hierarchy. The entire coercive control model relies on the idea that someone must be in charge. I am the head of this household. I am the authority.
The anarcho-primitivist perspective just rejects that premise entirely.
It says, hierarchy itself is an artificial, toxic illusion. I do not recognize your claimed rank or authority over me. It completely breaks the spell. You stop seeing them as a powerful authority figure and start seeing them as just another confused primate trying to dominate through intimidation. It removes the awe, and with it, the fear.
Then there's stoic apatheia.
This one is an incredibly practical survival tool. Evidence without attachment. It's about creating an impermeable shield of emotional neutrality. The Stoics taught that you cannot control external events like an abuser's rage. You can only control your inner response to them.
So when the architect starts screaming,
you don't absorb it. You don't engage. You become a scientist observing a phenomenon, a camera recording data. Observation! The subject's voice volume has increased by 40 decibels. The subject's face is now red. The subject has just thrown a ceramic plate against the wall. You strip the emotional charge out of it. You starve them of the reaction they need.
you starve the harvest.
You starve the harvest. They need your fear, your anger, your tears. If you give them calm, detached observation, they have nothing to eat. They starve.
What about chaos magic? That sounds out there. Reality hacking.
This is the most rebellious one. It sees the abuse not as a psychological problem, but as a psychic attack, a spell. The abuser is constantly casting a narrative spell. You are worthless without me. You are incompetent. You are unlovable.
And chaos magic says, you can cast a stronger spell.
It says you can hack their reality. You don't have to live inside their narrative. You can consciously rewrite it. You can create a counter-narrative. You are not a powerful, terrifying monster. You are a sad, wounded child throwing a tantrum, and I feel pity for you. You change the frame. You seize control of the reality tunnel.
And finally, radical skepticism.
My personal favorite. You demand cold, hard evidence for everything. You treat their words as unsubstantiated claims until proven otherwise.
You say you love me. The evidence of the last 3 hours of you screaming at me suggests that claim is false. Please provide new data.
Exactly. You claim this is all my fault. Please demonstrate the causal chain of events that leads to that conclusion. Gaslighting relies on you doubting your own perception. Radical skepticism does the opposite. It relies only on verifiable facts. It's like an acid that dissolves the fog of their lies.
Okay, so these are the mindsets, the immune systems. But how do you actually get out the door? The source gives a very clear exit plan.
It does. It calls it the escape velocity protocol because you are in a strong gravitational pull and you need a powerful, deliberate thrust to break orbit.
It's 4 steps. Step 1 is clear seeing.
You have to name the beast. You have to finally admit to yourself that this is not a difficult relationship. It is an optional soul trap. It's not just how love is sometimes. It is a parasitic mechanism. That clarity is the first stage of the rocket.
Step 2, refusal, the active part.
This is the hardest part. You must withhold all energy. It's gray rocking, but on a spiritual level. No attention, no emotional reactions, no long explanations or justifications, no sharing your vulnerabilities. You become an energetic black hole.
You starve the beast.
You starve the beast. If they scream, you look at them blankly and say nothing. If they cry, you don't comfort them. If they threaten you, you document it and walk away. You cut off the food supply completely.
Then step 3, cycle burn.
This means enforcing immediate non-negotiable boundaries without any future negotiation. It's not, if you ever hit that wall again, I swear I'm going to leave. It is, you just hit the wall, I am leaving now. You burn the cycle to the ground. You do not negotiate with archons.
And the final step after you're out. Step 4, sovereign reclamation.
This is the internal work.
Yeah.
It's the profound realization that your sovereignty, your freedom, is inherent to your existence. It doesn't require their permission. It doesn't require a judge's validation. You don't need them to agree that you are free. You are free because you are. You take your power back not by fighting them for it, but by realizing you never truly lost it. You just forgot you had it.
The source material ends on such a powerful, concise statement. No frequency harvests what is consciously unfed.
That's the entire thing in a nutshell, the whole elaborate structure, all 14 nodes, the charm, the terror, the guilt, the systemic failures, it all runs on one fuel source. Your conscious or unconscious participation, your energy. The moment you consciously choose to stop feeding it, the machine grinds to a halt. It will clank and scream and rage for a while, trying to trick you into turning the power back on, but if you hold fast, it rusts over and dies.
It's an incredible reframing of abuse. It takes it out of the realm of painful human drama and elevates it to a metaphysical battle for your own life force.
But that reframing is what's so empowering. It stops you from being the helpless victim of a mean person and transforms you into a sovereign being defending against a parasitic attack. And a parasite can be removed. Siege can be broken.
And that's our deep dive for this week.
Remember, the most dangerous illusion is the one you don't know you're in.
But now you know. So here's our question for you. Now that you've seen how charm disarms, how love bombing installs dependency, how your own empathy gets weaponized against you, and how entire systems still protect the predator instead of the prey, where in your own life, past or present, are you still giving someone or something the benefit of the doubt, even though your gut has already whispered, run more than once?
Let us know in the comments. Question the narrative. Deconstruct the dogma. See the system.
We'll see you next time. Stay skeptical. Thank you for joining us.